If you want to help Myth Vision Podcast grow, you can join our Patreon. There are different tiers, as well as help out with PayPal. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Saturn Mood comments on YouTube. What is the best way to counter the argument that if you accept that Julius Caesar or Socrates existed, then you have to accept the claim Jesus existed?
The cases are not much alike. The stories of Socrates and of Julius Caesar are based partly on known eyewitness or first-person accounts. Caesar wrote the Gallic War. Somebody didn't write it about him after his death. And with Socrates, we have Plato's dialogues, though the later dialogues give us the same problem that the Gospel of John does compared with the Synoptics. It seems like it's much more based on Plato's own extrapolations. But we also have Xenophanes, who wrote about his own dialogues with Socrates that sound a good bit different and more simple. And so there are similar problems, but that's similar problems, not necessarily solutions. But the big thing is that the Gospels are really a whole different critter. They abound in miracle stories. There's almost nothing but that. Of course, there's a lot of teaching, but that really doesn't mean much since most of that is paralleled, sometimes nearly verbatim, in the rabbis and various ancient philosophers. But the story of this guy is like that of Apollonius of Tyana or Pythagoras or others, where it's either all legend or it might as well be because there's nothing but this kind of stuff. Could be that a real guy has been mythologized, that's happened, but it could be that it's all myth. Either way, you don't have access to a reliable picture of Jesus. There are no naturalistic accounts. There's no, well, you kind of have one in the Pauline epistles where they're mentioning Jesus and Christ all the time, but nothing about him being a teacher or a miracle worker, a healer, any of that. How can that have escaped his attention? You might say, well, he didn't really want to major on those things. Well, why not, given that the gospel writers certainly did? It just seems a very odd omission. What, nothing? And so that's a big one right there. There's no real problem accepting anything that Caesar or contemporaries said about himself. I guess the weirdest one would be the comet that supposedly appeared in the sky. But you know, that could have happened, but even if not, it's kind of a standard mythical embellishment. And with Socrates, there's nothing miraculous about it. He's just an extremely clever, smart-ass genius. And that's, there's no, I mean, it could be a made-up thing, but there's no real reason to think so. But with Jesus, he's cast, the way even Bultmann says that Jesus must have understood himself as an exorcist and a healer, and that his public did too. Now, we don't know what was really going on. Maybe it was psychosomatic healing, whatever. Wait a second. These Gospels depict Jesus as, I know it seems like I can't get off of this, but like Superman. Jairus' daughter is at the point of death. This is a job for Super Jesus. Let's get him over here. And these other things that, oh, here comes Jesus. Let's bring our whole troop of demoniacs out and get him to cure them all. And if he just touches them, that ought to do the trick. It just seems like a comic book. that, oh yeah, anything, any miracle you need, Jesus will do it. And it just seems like a false thing. That's different from saying there might have been this guy who had a gift for a psychological healing, but on such a scale, it just seems like it's blown up into what seems fictional. And if it seems fictional, there's no particular reason to think it didn't start out that way. Occam's razor, it's just a superfluous extra explanation to say, oh, well, it also really happened, kind of. It could have, but it sounds so fictional, why not dismiss it as such?
I have that temptation to, you could be right. I personally do have that temptation of saying, okay, well, I do want to try and find out what can maybe possibly be true. Even that may not be. But I just kind of want to try and sweep and see what I can find. But I get it. Like, when you phrased it, like, it kind of could be true. It makes me think when they borrow stuff from Josephus, is that about as true as things get? Or is borrowing the sources from other writers, is that as true as it gets? Because if Josephus, let's just say, is documenting something like the Eidos or whatever we talked about with the Messianic leaders, and you see implications borrowed in the Gospels, does that make John the Baptist actually have existed if he is the Eidos? No, not necessarily. Especially if he didn't really do exactly what it's a fictional theatus. So now you've got like what the heck is going on? If that's even the case, just saying, like, how can you say historicism if, let's say just like John the Baptist based off theatus? What if the fictional version of the Egyptian based on Len Einhorn's thought is Jesus? So is Jesus really a historical person? I mean, can you say yes and no at the same time? What do you mean when you say that? And technically, at that point, if he was a rebel who died on the hill of Mount Olives, was he really out there saying, don't worry about it, pay your taxes, turn the other cheek? Guys, look, see this Roman soldier? We're going to war with him soon, but by the way, he has greater faith than anyone in Israel. Come on, what's happening here? So how... I know that I'm touching possibly clouds that I think are solid at times when I'm trying, but at least I want to try and put my hand on them, and if they fall through, hey, they fall through. And at the end of the day, most of the things I've leaned on are either things that I thought might be based on real historical events in Josephus, but it's all fictionalized. So it's like, how can you even know? And peeling away the onion, there's no real core. It's just, you peel away the whole onion. There's nothing left. So,
and you're just going to have eyes filled with tears when you. In his preface to our book, Varieties of Jesus Mythicism, John Loftus has this great statement that he says, was there a historical King Arthur? Well, it's possible that there was some Romano-British warrior chief that gave rise by hook and by crook to this character. But who knows? I prefer, even more to the point, was there originally a Merlin the magician? Well, people have said that there is this character we read almost nothing about, but there is Myrddin, who was a Celtic poet. And I said, well, maybe this was the origin of Merlin the magician. Even if it was, can you say Merlin the magician actually existed? Like Santa Claus, he was derived from Bishop, what the heck was it? Nicholas of Myra or something like that. And suppose that's true and that he liked giving gifts to kids and stuff. Does that mean Santa Claus existed or exists? That's there's such a distance between the alleged origin point and what we mean when we refer to the figure that it's kind of a moot point.
Right. It makes me wonder, too, not getting into Paul but the Gospels, just makes me think, I mean, look at what he's left with, right? We're left with these Gospels where if it weren't for the miracle stories, what would be so special about these stories? Mm-hmm. You mentioned this in your debate with Bart Ehrman, and kind of thinking about it, I'm like, not trying to go into the why did we hear about him contemporaneous, even though we go into that kind of stuff and wonder if someone is screaming that loud during the period. Wouldn't you think even more was at least mentioned in Josephus instead of like even not getting into the testimony of Lavinium and all the different things? I'm pointing out if he did more and was more successful, and Judas the Galilean is remembered, and the Egyptian is remembered, and Theodus is remembered. Where the heck is the guy who actually had the movement successfully make it? Oh, well, that one was not as popular then during the time. You got to speculate. Now you got to think, well, it took 40 years for this to become popular, and now it's something. But when we read the Gospels, it's all miracle. And that's what I told people about the Julius Caesar connections. I'm like, aren't there writings? Yeah, I'm sure there's some enhanced concepts of Julius Caesar, or, there's some things that are mythology. You can obviously see they enhance. Is the whole damn thing that way? Because when I read the Gospels, I'm thinking, this guy is above life the whole time. There's not like a reality of a real guy here. It seems so beyond.
Yeah.
And that's how I read him. I'm like, what's he going to do next? Mm-hmm. Oh, he's going to do something. When you're reading about Julius Caesar, and I mentioned this before, I can't remember who I asked, it might have been Christopher Hansen. I said, are there Gospels of Caesar? And what I mean is, are there writings of Caesar that we have that portray him in divine terms completely, practically, or a divine worker, in a sense that you almost got to wonder, is this a real guy?
Yeah, I don't believe there are.
I don't think there are either. Show me a writing of Jesus that isn't so mystified and mythological, and then I might actually start saying, you know what, you got some serious weight to this. Where's the historical guy? There's got to be one, and this might be it. I wish there were more writings like that. The closest you can get to is Paul, but even Paul makes it weird and beyond. It's even though he's not a miracle worker, he's still divine in a whole different level. Give me an earthly, normal, non-crazy, miracle-working Jesus, and I can start to see what you're saying. Instead, we got to erase all the miracles, or we have to rationalize, well, he didn't really spread 1,000 loaves. What he did is he taught everyone to share. Share what you already have. What? Walk on water? Oh, they have another explanation for that or something. Or rise from the dead. He didn't really rise, which is an interesting one you brought up. But too much. It's too much magic going on to me. And that's why I don't think we'll ever figure it out.
Yeah, because even if Jesus was just portrayed like James Bond, you have the same problem. The guy does nothing but fabulously, like Batman. He didn't come from the planet Krypton or anything, but look at everything he does. There really is no Bruce Wayne there at all. It's just Batman, who might as well have superpowers. It's surprising that he doesn't, given what he's able to do. And that implies, this isn't really a human being.
I just want to say, with what you just said, that I think is important. We can find things that seem earthly, seem human, seem from other historical characters. Go and sew your cloak and buy a sword, right? Sounds pretty messianic. Sounds militant. Okay, is that Jesus saying that? How do we know that? How do you know that didn't come from a Josephus messianic figure? How do we know that's not something else from somewhere else? We don't. And so the evidence is bad at best to try and deduce, well, kind of using the same rationale that Paula Fredrickson was using, and you're saying, look, there's a deductive method. Let's cut out the miracles, let's cut this out. Let's see what looks like it's borrowed from Josephus about other characters. Eliminate that, what's left is Jesus. Is that really the correct way to do this? And why are you using that methodology? Why even begin that way? How do you know that's the start of what we should do? Once you remove these things, you have the real guy. How do you know that? Too many methods that can be used, and to find, and whatever you're looking for, you'll find it's there.